Capital Region Sports Saturday, brought to you by Mohawk Honda, your number one volume dealer in the Capital Region. So if you notice on Twitter, okay, follow me on Twitter at 1045 Radio Brady. Pretty much any local story that I write goes out to, I tweeted out at various different organizations I think might be interested in it. And some of those groups are high school kids or accounts run by high school kids, because these kids are into Section 2 athletics and into local sports, just as much as I am. And so if you remember a couple months ago, we talked to Connor Hall, who's a student at Maple Hill. He's really into the 518 sports and all that. We talked to him. We heard his perspective on what it's like to balance athletics and being a student journalist. Well, now we've got on the phone the guy who started it all. That's Dylan Rossiter. Dylan, you there with us?
Yeah, I'm here with you, Brady.
Hey, Dylan, appreciate the time, man. So first off, I have to ask you, of all these Twitter accounts that I tweet at, how many do you run?
All three of them. You can catch us for all of our high school stuff. It's at 518 Varsity. Our regular account for everything else is at Real 518 Sports, and you can catch me personally at 518 Sports, DRoss, DROSS.
Now, I'm amazed whenever I write something, whenever I tweet something out, it doesn't matter what time it is. 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 1 p.m. Like, aren't you in school? Isn't there a no phone in school policy?
You would think so, Brady, but fortunately, we're allowed to use our phones in school. I get your messages. Hit that retweet button, get you guys some more exposure on the stories.
Well, I appreciate that. So tell me about this. So obviously you're a high school student. You want to be a sports journalist. How did it come about, this whole 518 sports? And it's not just you and Connor Hall. You guys have other guys from other schools outside of Maple Hill. You've really got a high school sports empire here.
Yeah, we really do. We've got guys out of Shen. We've got guys at a Boston Spa. We just added some guys out of LaSalle. And, of course, we got Jason Pulaski out of Guilderland, who covers everything for Albany for us. I sort of came up with the idea last May in the shower, believe it or not. And we started just promoting, Section 2 baseball and softball. And then at the start of this school year, I said, let's make this real. Let's make this more. And we launched the website, 518sports.com.
Now, what are you guys covering? Because it seems like you guys are everywhere. And it just, tell us kind of what a typical academic school year for you guys looks like in terms of coverage.
We're going to do, obviously, you're going to do high school football in the fall. We throw in a little soccer when we can on both the boys and girls side of things. In the winter, it's obviously all boys basketball. And, of course, we've started to get more into hockey thanks to some of the great work of Dylan McClin out of Boston Spa High School. And then in the spring, it's baseball, lacrosse, and softball. And then come, the summer, we're going to start up at the track this year. And, of course, the Valley Cats. Not to mention all our work at the college level throughout this year. We do UAlbany football, UAlbany basketball, Siena basketball, and, of course, UAlbany baseball.
Now, you guys are this is all volunteer, right? Like, how do you guys have the time to be all these places?
Somehow we make it work, but you're right, it is all volunteer, and thankfully we've gotten some great support from the local athletics, and we've made it happen. But, it's been fun, certainly.
Now, what is next for you guys? How can you continue to expand? Because I noticed that you and Connor Hall over at Maple Hill have started broadcasting live games. Is that something you're looking to do off-site at other high schools? Is that something you're looking to have guys at other high schools kind of take ownership of their own schools? What's the process with that?
Yeah, we haven't really, it's a question I come up with every day, is how can we get bigger? How can we expand? And we've certainly thought of live streaming. That's something we're going to be looking at next year. But right now it's all about getting out there, getting in more high schools, and getting more kids involved.
Now, you're wrapping up your junior year now, correct?
Correct.
So you're going to be a senior next year. What happens when you leave? Is this a situation where you graduate and then Connor Hall graduates a year behind you and the empire kind of falls apart because you're not there? Or who are you trying to entrust to keep this thing growing and growing even after you graduate?
I try not to think, that far in advance, but I can tell you the empire is not going to collapse. We're going to keep this going no matter what it takes. I think we've got something really special going on here. It's been received tremendously from everyone inside and out of the Capital District, and I'm sure we're going to find a way to keep it going in the next few years.
Dylan Rossiter, a high school student who has started the high school sports journalist craze really in the Capital Region, 518 Sports and 518sports.com. He's with us here on Capital Region Sports Saturday. Dylan, what are your ultimate career goals? I mean, I say you're an aspiring sports journalist, but that's a wide range of possibilities. What are your ultimate long-term goals?
I would be happy just getting a job, in sports journalism, whether that's at the radio level, on TV, sideline reporter. I'm not in love with the idea of print just because, unfortunately, the way that the shift is going, it's starting to get away from print journalism, but I'm certainly not afraid to venture off into it because it's a great place to start, I think.
So what are your goals as far as college? Where are you looking to go? Have you thought about that process yet?
I've always been amazed at, going to school somewhere in Boston, and I've looked into it more, and I think the ultimate dream would be Boston University.
Tell us about, I saw this story develop on Twitter, but I honestly don't know the full story. You guys, you said you've been well received by everyone in the Capital Region, but that didn't appear to be the case when you guys tried to cover the state basketball tournament. Is that correct?
Yeah, unfortunately, the New York State Public High School Athletics Association had a hard time recognizing high school journalists, and I do understand some of their procedures because, you can't just have somebody show up and say they are, a reporter or whatnot. Unfortunately, it didn't, go well at first, but thankfully, there was a storm on Twitter. It took a life on its own, and we were able to cover it in a role.
How did that go about? How did you have to have meetings? What was the process for you fighting for your organization to represent itself there? Dylan, you with us? I don't think we lost him, but maybe he'll call back in. Dylan Rossiter, 518-SPORTS, 518sports.com with us here at Capital Region Sports Saturday. It's really just, an unbelievable wave of energy here in the Capital Region from these high school kids. And again, you can follow them on Twitter, 518-SPORTS, Real 518-SPORTS, 518-Varsity. There's kids everywhere that are doing this, and these are some of the guys that we like to connect with as well because they're in tune to Section 2 athletics, to high school sports, to anything local, and in the local college scene, and they help us get the word out as well. These guys are truly in tune. So just a great story, a great organization there. And again, some of these kids are athletes as well. So, I start to think to myself, what would I have done if I were in high school? Would I have been able to balance being a two-sport varsity athlete at Shen, baseball and basketball, with my journalistic passions? I did it in college, spending time being a broadcaster and for hockey and basketball. Looks like we've got Dylan back. Dylan, you back with us?
Yeah, I'm back with you, Brady.
Hey, so I was just asking you, now some of you guys are athletes as well. Like I said, we talked to Connor Hall. He's balancing playing 3 sports with your guys' organization. How many athletes do you have on your staff?
Certainly. We have a handful. Guys that play baseball, guys that – we've got one kid that plays hockey, and he finds a way after a game to get a report to us by midnight. It's absolutely insane, and it's just devotion. I think – when it all comes down to it, we want to make it big, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to do that.
Again, Dylan Rossiter, 518sports.com with us. And again, I was amazed to hear you say you're going to be up at the track, you're going to be at the Valley Cats. Like, this production doesn't stop just because the school year stops.
Certainly, we're more than just high school. Although I will say, personally, one of my favorite things to cover is high school sports. I just don't think you can beat the drama surrounding them.
Now, you guys are also expanding out to interviews with professional athletes or professional organizations. Tell us a little bit about that. I've seen some things on Twitter where you guys interviewed Kevin Smith, the Columbia baseball player who's now at Maryland. You guys are talking to Jimmer Fredette, I know, next week you've got on tap.
Yeah, fortunately, guys are just willing to give us a chance and run out there and try it. We send them a message, and the hardest part is just getting in contact with them with that initial step, and then usually from there it just goes well.
Dylan Rossiter, 518sports.com. You can follow him on Twitter at any number of the accounts. Dylan, give them to us again.
It's at 518varsity, at Real 518sports, and you can follow me personally. It's at 518sports, DRoss, DROSS.
Dylan, we appreciate the time, my man, all right?
All right, thanks for having me, Brady.
Dylan Rossiter, there he goes. Again, it's an unbelievable concept to me in this age of social media. It's an unbelievable concept to me in the age of people who, these guys are doing this for free, and, they don't want to get better at their craft. And again, when you get to college, everything is, we need an internship program. We need to have done this. We need to have done that. Well, these kids are already getting that done between 9th and 12th grade. So it's an interesting story. You can follow them on Twitter.